Hi, welcome to Local Flavor. We're here in Moreland again at Aunt Faye's Community Kitchen, and we're getting ready for the holiday season. And so today I'm going to make for you some eggnog cheesecake. And we're going to go a little out of order just because this recipe has so many cooling stages. So a lot of it's pre-done, so you don't have to wait. And so the first thing I want to do, I only have one cheesecake pan this time. So I'm going to take my cheesecake out first. This knife is huge. This is one I made last night, and I need to reuse the pan. So I'm going to scrape around the sides. And you'll notice it has a really big piece of parchment paper. That's so that I could move it off of this onto another plate. Giant knife. And since it's big, I can get it. And then during the break, I'll trim off that extra paper. But it made it come over nice and easy. Now this cheesecake is very short, kind of like almost cheesecake bars. And the reason we're doing that is it's pretty rich. I kind of like it better that way because I can never finish a whole piece of cheesecake. But with it being thin like this, it makes it just right. So I'm going to put another piece of parchment in. And we'll get ready to make the crust. I do need to just wash this out a little bit. For the crust, we're going to have a graham cracker crust with some eggnog flavoring in it. See, the parchment just lays out. It was kind of easy to put in. I didn't have to cut it round yet. It'll be harder to cut off of this. And I'll put that in the fridge later. But the graham cracker crust, we start with a cup of graham cracker crumbs, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger, a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. So I'm almost out of cinnamon. I need to go to Glenn's Bulk Foods and get some more. And this is the Saigon cinnamon with the high oil content, so it has a lot of scent. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Then 3 tablespoons of sugar. I'm just going to use this little scoop measure. I'm having a really hard time. I'm going to use my granny fork to incorporate these. That's right. So they're nice and stirred up. Then I'm going to put in 1/3 cup of butter, or 3 tablespoons. 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Actually, I put in a little extra so that it would stick really well. 3 to 4 tablespoons. That's probably about 1/4 cup. It was a 1/2 stick of butter. I knew that I wouldn't have time to scrape the sides very well, so. Okay, it has a lot of spices in it, so this will be a little bit different than a regular graham cracker crust. I'm gonna put this into my springform pan, and then I'll start it cooking at 375, and it's just gonna go for 5 minutes. It won't look done at all. It probably won't look very different than it was when it went in. But that'll get the crust to start to set. And when it's cooking, I'm going to get the eggnog started. We're going to make homemade eggnog to put in this. I suppose you could buy canned eggnog, or carton eggnog from the store. But we're going to make our own. My nieces love eggnog too much to not know how to make it. Ivy especially. Once she said her greatest fear in life was running out of noggin. She calls it noggin. She goes, Mama, I know your fear is a giant cricket or our house burning in fire, but mine is running out of noggin. So, best to know how to make it because you can't always go on a noggin run. Okay, this will go in the oven for 5 minutes. In the meanwhile, we start the long session of the eggnog. I have 5 eggs in here. It needs 6 total. So 6 eggs and 2 cups of milk. Your recipe will say 4 cups divided. We're going to put 2 cups in now and 2 cups after it's cooked. I'm going to put the eggs in, or that in after this. 3/4 of a cup of sugar and just a teeny bit of salt. I kind of like, this is one of the few eggnog recipes I've seen that has a little salt, and it just helps bring out the flavors a little. So 3/4 of a cup of sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. This is sea salt. And once I get that whisked up, I'll add the milk, and then the wait begins. I swear one night on an infomercial, I saw an ad for a whisk that stirred your pot while you walked away. And I thought, who would need that? And then I started making eggnog. And I went, I wish I had that invention. We're going to put it on low heat. So we lit and stir it pretty much constantly. And this will take, and we want it to get up to 160 degrees. So this will take about a half an hour. If you go too quickly, if you turn up the heat and get impatient, it'll probably lump up. So we want to get it tempered right to 160 as slowly as possible. So go grab a book. I'll see you in a half an hour. We'll take a little break. I'll be stirring.
Dignity, respect, professionalism, commitment, and fairness are the 5 core values you can expect from All Faiths Funeral Chapel in Smith Center. At All Faiths Funeral Chapel, they consider it an honor to serve you and your family and their community. Built in 2010, their large state-of-the-art facility includes dining and reception hall to accommodate large funeral dinners, even anniversaries and weddings. They also sell customized monuments and offer pre-arranged services. All Faiths Funeral Chapel in Smith Center. When a storm leaves your home battered and damaged, there's only one thing you can do. Forget all about it. The men in black at Aqua Shield Roofing and Construction have the skills and knowledge to fix your home so you'll forget the damage ever happened. Along with roofs, they do siding, guttering, insulation, windows, doors, and more. With offices in Hugoton, Oberlin, and Liberal, they're never too far away when damage strikes. When you need to forget about home damage, call the men in black at Aqua Shield Roofing and Construction.
You're in the right place, the see it before you buy place, the professional staff place, the have it delivered place. Frigid Air Gallery and Genuine Appliance has real stainless steel with fewer fingerprints and smudges. Ranges with true convection speed bake. Quietest in its class dishwashers. Refrigerators with the freezer on the top, the bottom, or side by side. Frigid Air Gallery and Genuine Appliance at 1224 East 27th in Hayes. The best price place. You're in the right place.
Welcome back to Local Flavor. I am exhausted from a half hour of stirring this custardy mess in here, and it is up to 160. So the first thing I need to do is pour it into another bowl, and it needs to be one that can handle temperature changes. So I have chosen a Pyrex bowl here, and I'm going to keep my whisk in it and add the rest of the milk. I'm going to add it a little bit gradually. This way it'll temper it a little slowly. We need to get this cooled down. We need to warm it up slow, and now we got to cool it down slowly. This is another 2 cups of milk. My arm's getting too tired to keep going that slow. It's over. And we're going to put in a tablespoon of vanilla. And this is just regular old pure vanilla extract. And a teaspoon of nutmeg. And we start the cooling But I'm gonna leave the whisk in it because I need to stir it every now and then to start the cooling. I'm gonna put it in an ice water bath. So I've got a bowl of water here, and then I'm gonna slowly add a little bit of ice, facing away from it so I don't splash it in there. If you try to put the ice in at first, your bowl will never be settled, you know. Your bowl kind of gets tipped on a piece of ice. So while I'm making the cheesecake filling, I will stir that every now and then. And you should actually, after you get it cooled here, you should cool it in the fridge for like 4 hours. But that's probably a long time. So this is the cheesecake filling that we're starting on now. I have 12 ounces of cream cheese. I'm going to let that start to mix up and get softened. I've had it out most of the morning, so it will be soft. And then this is 1/3 of a cup of sugar to put in with it. Oh, this one still has really firm controls. I'm going to toss in an egg, and I'll let that go until it's really well mixed. And then I'm going to put in 3/4 of a cup of eggnog. I made some last night. We're not done making our eggnog, but I made some from last night because it takes so long to cool. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll finish our eggnog after the cheesecake is actually cooked. But this eggnog has been chilling overnight. This is 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to wait until this one's pretty well mixed. This is in a cereal container because I left my pitcher at my niece's. Ivy wasn't done with the eggnog when I left their house. Let me grab a spatula. This is also okay, you can't over mix it. Lots of mixing is good. And once we get it all mixed up, I'm going to put it in our cooled crust. And we'll bake it again. I had to turn down. Do you know what else I need to do? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It's not a secret. Okay. We're going to whip cream for the last part of this, so I need to put my metal bowl and my whisk in the freezer to get them nice and cold. And cheesecake is simple as that, really. Wrong show. You'll notice when I got the eggnog out, you shake it. You always, when this eggnog is done, you can keep it for several days in the fridge, but you always want to whisk it or shake it before you eat it, before you pour it in your cup, because it all separates into layers. Let me scrape down the sides one more time. What a mess. I'm going to let that go for just a bit. Now I had to turn down, if I didn't tell you, I had to turn down the oven to 325 to bake the cheesecake. And you know, a regular cheesecake will take probably sometimes 4 bricks of cream cheese. This one only took 1.5, so it's much, much lower than a regular cheesecake. This would probably be, you could put them in a bar pan if you didn't want to use your springform pan. Just an 8x8 little bar pan, or then you could have cheesecake bars. I just don't want it to drip, so. This will get poured in. I want to remember to stir my eggnog. Keep it cooling. This will cook for about 28 minutes, and I want to cook it until the inside is just set. Sometimes I'll want it to be firm, or I'll shake it, and that'll make the top crack. So we want it just barely set, and then the top won't crack. This is pretty lumpy. Don't look at this. Yours should be smooth. But it'll melt. So about 28 minutes is what it takes, depending on your stove, of course, but you do want the middle set but not solid. And don't shake it to test it. Then we'll take it out and let it cool. We'll cool it on a wire rack for about an hour, and then in the fridge for about 3 hours. So I'm gonna stick this in the oven. When we come back, we're gonna make the rest of the eggnog, and we'll see what this looks like all cooked.
Did you know?
It's not just water, it's better water.
Better Water Smith Center completes all your hydration needs. They sell Lundy spring systems, including water softeners, reverse osmosis, water coolers, and bottled water. They won't just install your system, they will service and repair it too. Better Water can repair Echo water systems and all other major brands. They offer softener salt sales and delivery for your convenience. Serving all of Northwest Kansas.
It's not just water, it's better water.
You should never run out of the important stuff.
Really?
If your current wireless plan leaves you at the end of your rope, imagine how you'll feel with Nex-Tech Wireless with unlimited everything. Nex-Tech Wireless gives you the freedom to go as far as you want. Nex-Tech Wireless, something different.
Hi?
We're looking for insurance.
Let's see who's free.
When insurance agents work for only one company, their options are simply limited. But a trusted choice independent agent is free to shop many companies for a better deal. Free to do what's right for you.
Let us shop for you. Contact Rogers & Associates to learn more.
Welcome back to Local Flavor. This is a hard one. We are going to finish our eggnog while the cheesecake is baking, and we need the cold stuff now to make the whipped topping. So I'm going to get our really cold bowl and the whisk and the heavy whipping cream. It's just 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. So I left them in the fridge until the last minute so it would be as cold as possible. And I have found the last few times I've made this, it hasn't been taking terribly long to make this. So I'm going to start it on low and pour in my heavy whipping cream, 1 cup. I like to start it low and kind of coax it into working with me. It's all in my head. I feel like I want it all in there. And then once it gets started, I'll put in a 1/4 cup of sugar just to help it along with the whipping and to make it a little sweet, of course. Now I'm touching it. I'm just going to add it really gradually. Once it's whipped up, I only need it at soft peaks. Sometimes I go ahead and go to hard peaks just because I like it a little thicker. With some eggnog recipes, you're actually whipping the egg whites instead of the whipping cream. I really like this recipe better. I like that all of the egg is cooked, in case you're worried about that. There are eggnog recipes where you don't have to cook it at all, and they taste fine, really. I'm not afraid of a little egg. But if you're going to have to cook part of it, you might as well cook all of it. This one gets a little thicker. That's why Ivy likes it the best. She likes it nice and thick. Now, in reality, we're still in the ice bath, but in your head, know that this should have been in the fridge for 4 hours. And once we get this up, once this is whipped enough, I'll slowly incorporate in the eggnog mix that we cooked and cooled. In the meanwhile, I'm going to prepare some toppings for the cheesecake. One recommended topping that I thought I would really love, and I don't really, is crystallized ginger. I love ginger in Oriental food, so I thought having it cooked in sugar would be even better, but I'm not a fan. So I usually put it on half the cheesecake, and then I just put graham cracker crumbs on the other half. You want it garnished with something, especially if you made it crack. I can't believe I got one that didn't crack at all. So I'm just cutting this tiny, and crystallized ginger looks like it should be like hard candy, but it's pretty gummy. You should taste it. I'm sure you'd love it, but for me, no. I did get this at Destination Kitchen a while ago. I just opened it. I had a scones recipe that I was going to make with it. Now that I've tried it, I don't know if I'm still interested in that recipe. But we'll see. That's probably enough. I'm going to cut them a little smaller too. I at least got them. If it were hard, it'd be a lot easier to sprinkle on, wouldn't it? I better pay attention to my whipped topping. Ooh, it's looking pretty good. I'll show you. See how it's sticking on there good? And remember, it was like a milk consistency before. This is actually pretty good. I'm gonna give it a little bit more whipping. Then I'll start adding the eggnog, the rest of the eggnog. This is part of the eggnog. And it will keep in the fridge. I might have already told you, it'll keep in the fridge for several days, and you'll always need to mix it. And we already put the eggnog in our cheesecake, so this is just to finish up the eggnog. I'm going to pour this in really slowly. And we'll lose our peaks, of course. If you keep beating and beating, it might turn to butter, so we better be careful. I think that's the only dairy product that's not in here. When I put the milk in, I wanted to make sure that I didn't think I mentioned it, because normally I buy skim milk for drinking. I don't like it to be too thick. But for eggnog, you want it really thick, so you use whole milk. We're going to have a mess if I don't turn that down. I just want to keep stirring it so the nutmeg stays in it. Most people actually double this recipe if they're gonna put it in a punch bowl and serve it at a party. So, I'm gonna call that done. It has a little bit of froth because of all the whipping. A lot of times if you whip the egg white, if you use that method, that's what gives it the froth. Some people don't like the froth though. I'm just gonna taste it and see how it turned out because we didn't let it chill long enough really. Oh, I love eggnog. Very good. So let's pretend this is what we put in our cheesecake even though we used the stuff from last night. And here my cheesecake turned out pretty good. It doesn't have any cracks in the top. When I baked this one, I actually did put a cup of water. I just put a ceramic mug full of water in with it, and that will also help with the cracking. The one I'm baking today, I did not do that. So we'll be curious to see how it turns out. Here's the crystallized ginger for the brave folks who will try that. And here's what I want, graham cracker crumbs. You want something. I like how you can see little flecks of nutmeg in the cheesecake. It's just for garnish. The 1 cup of graham cracker is actually not, one of the packages is a little more than a cup, I'd say about 1.5 cups, so that's why I had a little extra for garnish. I'm gonna cut it up and see how it looks. And you'll notice that I trimmed the parchment paper so that it doesn't look too bad. I have another cake plate that has a little ridge, and I think I would use it. I'd recommend using that. But it's going to taste a lot like traditional cheesecake, I predict. There's nothing like home-baked cheesecake, and this, because of the nutmeg in the eggnog, and the eggnog in the cheesecake batter, and then all those seasonings in the crust, just gives it a little bit more of a festive flavor. So, but I love homemade cheesecake. Even if it doesn't have eggnog in it, you gotta make homemade cheesecake. I hope you'll give it a try. It does take a long time, but it's worth the wait. See you next time on Local Flavor.